positions for the new constitution. But you are still at liberty, of course, to change names. Walijuana, ama marijuana, whichever. And it's also okay that to inform the country that actually you have multiplied. If you belong to the Christian faith, they would say that we are told to go out there and multiply. So you've done well. Honorable Murugara, member for Tharaka, you have also multiplied. What do you mean? Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Tharaka are not a minority as such. They are recognized. But there is a community in Tana River known as the Munyoyaya,
Yes.
who are actually a very small minority in the country and who trace their roots to the Tharaka. It is historical. They are not Somalis. They are not Pokomos. They are not Oromos. They are actually a Bantu community that migrated down the Tana River into Madogo, the area that is near Bura, etc. So as we, near Adendra's constituency, as we discuss these ones, Honorable Wario is not here, and he would confirm that that is a small minority community and it's related to the Tharaka. I think as we discuss Honorable Owen's petition, let's also consider the Munyoyaya. Thank you.
Honorable Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, recently when the Shona people came to Parliament, having left Kiambu Parliament to make a case for themselves, Honorable Shaman and myself represented the National Assembly. We listened to them. They are very well documented by the ICJ. And Mr. Speaker, I believe the case for Pemba and the Shona and any other minority in the country who were here before independence, Mr. Speaker, in the British colony. By now that we have Huduma number, this is the opportunity for these people to be recognized, because when we made the Huduma number law and the regulations, Mr. Speaker, it is now clear that every person living in this country now is registrable in one way or another, and I believe this is the opportunity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kioni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to speak to the three petitions by supporting the one for the forest issue at Marsabit. Darago has a similar issue. I'm sure the committee, while they're addressing that issue, they can also jog their memory on the issues of Daragwa. And I support that petition. Mr. Speaker, the second one is on the issue of Pemba. I think it's a bit worrying that we still have our own people in this country who still are suffering, and they cannot even get marriages recognized under this country. I think it's a really worrying issue. But on that petition and the third one, Mr. Speaker, I have this to say. To me, they speak to the implementation of the Constitution. Because the Constitution has a clear guideline as to who becomes a Kenyan citizen if he was not by 2010. And I see the law, not because I'm the chair of CIOC, but I see the law of CIOC here, not just because of this community, because we are now sending these petitions to the right ministries who have failed to do what they were supposed to do. In my thinking is that they should actually be called upon to say, why have they failed to implement the Constitution as is provided for? Because if, and I see quite a bit of those communities falling within that area. So, Mr. Speaker, we had the issue of Kibla. There were Numbis. Those ones were recognized. I don't understand why others should be struggling. But I think the way to look at this issue is also to let the Kenyans know that there is a place they can bring those. They don't need to come and we don't need to bother them by having to get them doing protests along the roads and all those kind of things. I think we just need to let them know that it's a machinery within Parliament. And as I may never be able to say this again here, not because I'm going anywhere, but because I don't think it may be useful. But Mr. Speaker, CIOC is supposed to ensure that those aspects of the Constitution that are not being implemented are not benefiting Kenyans as they were intended by the 2010 constitutions are implemented. So I am asking, and I know your office has been very kind to us, but I'm asking people to know some of these aspects that we keep talking about, and I hear them from day to day, every other day. We have talked about the office of the Auditor General. For as long as the Auditor General is made to report through the Finance Committee on matters relating to the office will not become independent of the Ministry of Finance. We have said it as a committee that we need an independent committee in Parliament that deals with constitutional commissions and independent offices. That way, you can be able to, you can tell, perhaps that issue of the Auditor General have come here much earlier, and that committee will have been able to protect the independence of the retired Auditor General, which gives confidence to the ones who are serving now.
Is it another Munyoyaya or?
Mimi ni Bajun na
Bajun.
nakubali kuwa sisi ni wale walotengwa na bado tuko kidogo, lakini tunawahimiza wazaane zaidi na sisi tuwe wengi. Bwana Spika, nimeamka na mimi kuunga mkono ombi la Mheshimiwa Baya. Ni ukweli hawa Wapemba wamekuwa wakidhalilishwa sana hapa Kenya. Kuna mambo mengi hawapati kwa sababu
Mr. Speaker, tukakuomba tuwe na caucus ya kuangalia hawa watu ambao hawana jinsi ya kujulikana au kutambulika kama Wakenya. Na tulisema tuko na wengi, si community moja. Na hii katiba yetu inasema haifai watu wengine wapate na wengine wakose. Sasa mimi Mr. Speaker, nikisimama hapa nataka kusema kuwa sisi kama wabunge sote tunajua kwa hawa watu ambao wako kwa hii nchi yetu na wameishi na sisi wanafaa watambulike kama Wakenya. Na hivyo ninasimama na ninaunda hiyo ombi ya watu wa Pemba na wale watu wote wengine kama Washona na wale wa Rwanda ambao wanaishi na sisi kama Wakenya ili watambulike kama Wakenya. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, honourable members, you know there's only 30 minutes which is dedicated for comments on petitions. And I must administer that. So the final one is the member for Baringo.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii umenipa ili niweze pia kuchangia ombi hili ama tunaita ardhi hali katika kitabu chetu ambacho tumepewa mpya Mheshimiwa Spika. Nataka kuchangia ardhi hali ya yule aliyetoa kule Marsabit na kusema kwamba misitu yetu ni ya muhimu sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na hii misitu ambayo tunataka kuhifadhi ndio maisha yetu Mheshimiwa Spika. Manake tusipokuwa na miti nchi hii, tukiweza kutafuta tu kujenga vyumba kubwa kubwa, kutaka kutengeneza mambo ambayo ya siku hizi na tusahau mazingira Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata kwamba sisi kama binadamu tutaumia, na si Kenya peke yake, duniani nzima. Miti ni muhimu Mheshimiwa Spika, manake bila miti tunaweza sema bila miti pia hakuna uhai. Manake hewa ambayo tunavuta inatokana na miti na ni hewa safi. Misitu ni ya muhimu Mheshimiwa Spika. Manake kule Baringo ambapo nimetoka Mheshimiwa Spika, shida ambayo tuko nayo ya mafuriko yanatokana na mmomonyoko wa udongo. Manake sehemu za juu zimekatwa miti ambayo ingeweza kuzuia mchanga isiweze kwenda kuvurika kwenye mito, na kwa sasa watu wanaumia na hawajui sababu ni nini. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuhifadhi misitu yetu, ndio maisha yetu. Miti ni dawa, miti ndio tunatumia kupata makaratasi ya kuandika, miti tunatumia kujenga nyumba zetu, miti tunatumia Mheshimiwa Spika kupika, miti pia ndio inatujengea nyumba yetu ya milele. Miti pia Mheshimiwa Spika ndio tumekalia kama viti. Kwa hivyo miti na misitu tunasema tuhifadhi, mazingira ni ya muhimu Mheshimiwa Spika. So wale ambao wanataka kutoa miti ama misitu kusudi wajenge, Kenya bado ni kubwa. Northeastern shamba ni kubwa, Baringo kama kwetu pia shamba ni kubwa, kujeni kule mkajenge, muache misitu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
I'll begin to limit contributions on petitions because I think many of you don't seem to appreciate it. This is not a question for debate. Now, those petitions are referred to the relevant committees to which they were meant to, namely Administration of National Security, for the one by the Honorable Baya, the one on forests, which I read out to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, and the one by the Honorable Kiarie to the Committee on Finance and Planning. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, November 19, 2020, in the afternoon sitting. Number 1, the Quarterly Economic and Budgetary Review for the first quarter of the financial year 2020-2021 from the National Treasury and Planning. Number 2, the reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect to the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2019 and the certificates therein. A, the State Department for Vocational and Technical Training. B, the State Department for University Education. C, the Ministry of Lands and Fiscal Planning. D, Kenya Industrial Estates Limited. E, the SACCOs, Societies, Regulatory Authority, and F, Water Sector Trust Fund. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements of the human resource operations at the National Construction Authority for the period 2014-2015 to 2016-2017. Thank you.
The Chairman, National Government Constituency Development Fund. The Honorable Amunyinyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House. Today, Thursday, November 19, 2020, afternoon sitting. Biannual report of the Select Committee of National Government Constituency Development Fund on the implementation of the National Government CDF Act 2015 for the period 2017-2018 and 2018-2019 financial years. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Chanda.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that aware that Articles 203G, H, I, and J of the Constitution of Kenya safeguards the rights for the marginalized communities and ensures equitable distribution of resources to address affirmative action regarding distribution of resources, concerned that various government agencies and departments use different modes, parameters, indicators, and definition to marginalization, arid and semi-arid lands, hardship areas, poverty and poverty pockets to place mitigating, preferential, and affirmative resources. Further concerned that many areas that qualify and at times are worse off than the traditionally acclaimed marginalized zones do not benefit from the affirmative action government resources. This House resolves that the government through the State Department for National Planning to urgently develop a common national policy and criteria that shows hardship indicators, marginalization progression, and clear parameters for use by all government agencies and departments as well as county governments in directing preferential and affirmative action resources. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I do beg to give a notice of motion, Mr. Speaker. And it's a motion on the empowerment of artisans by the government. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to state that aware that there are diverse talents among the youth of this country, and noting that these talents have been severally displayed through various inventions and innovations which have been showcased by the artisans in platforms such as the annual Youth Innovation Week and others profiled on social media, and concerned that most of these innovations and artworks do not go beyond making sensational stories in their localities, local daily and social media mentions, and further noting that most of these innovations and artworks are crucial in ideas promotion, intellectual development, creating employment, and addressing the problems that affect us as Kenyans on a daily basis, concerned that there is inadequate support and administrative measures in place by the government to support the artisan, and cognizant of the fact that the Kenya Vision 2030 seeks to make our country an industrialized middle-income economy, aware of the immense potential for wealth creation and job opportunities that our local production can generate if well developed and commercialized, and recognizing that while our imports are well in excess of 2 billion Kenya shillings and are largely composed of non-value adding consumer goods, noting that homegrown talent and technology would be regional sensitive and appropriate for the environment that we live in, appropriate also for the social economic dynamics and suitable for our utility, and further concerned that most artisans lack appropriate technological skills, capital, and tools, this House therefore resolves that the national government, through the relevant ministry, formulates a policy which stipulates that at least 2% of the national government constituencies fund and Uwezo Fund is allocated for the purpose of equipping artisans with the necessary skills, tools, and technology. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First segment, the first question, member for Lamu West. Member has written to request question to be deferred. Request has been acceded to. So question is deferred. Next question by the member for Lagdera, Mohammed Hire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask question number 322 of 2020. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that the contractual obligations owed to various contractors in the country with regard to construction and upgrade of various health facilities in the marginalized areas under the Equalization Projects Program since January 2018 are fulfilled? Question number 2, could the ministry provide a list of the various health facilities whose construction or upgrade was done under the Equalization Projects Program and indicate the completion and handover dates for each? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Health. Next question by the member for Bondo. Honorable Chanda.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the question number 324 to the Secretary for Energy. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the reason in Bondo constituency and state when the matter will be resolved? Mr. Speaker, there's a small error in terms of Roman 1 and Roman 2 and 3, where Roman 3 is supposed to be Roman 2. So I asked, could the minister explain why electric power transformers in many areas of the constituency are either faulty or not operational, including those in areas such as Nyayo, Sanda, Rapogi, Dunya, Kibuye, Menya, Meyande, Ulanda, Nyandusi, Ndere, Magombe, Buriro, and Ohanga primary schools, Nyaguda secondary school, Rapogi and Gombe dispensaries, Barukwiri and Kodenya markets, Uhamba irrigation project, Barkufuango Lejo Maria and Anyanga, Nyenye, Misori, Honge, Kamumbo, Nyaudenge beaches. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that transformers in the said areas are operational to facilitate the realization of the last mile connectivity program? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Be replied before the Departmental Committee on Energy. This question of the member for Ruiru. Honorable Kingara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to ask question number 334 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, and Urban Development and Public Works. First, Mr. Speaker, sir, what is the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that the C56 Katongora, Mashinani, Keratina, Gekumari, Juja Farm Road in the rural constituency is in a deplorable state? Second, Mr. Speaker, what plans are there to ensure that the said road is upgraded to bitumen standard? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Last question by the member for Nakuru Town East, Honorable Gikaria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 342 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. Why is Egerton University management continuing to pay the teaching and non-teaching staff half salaries since April 2020, despite having a court order directing for full payment, and even after receiving full capitation from the government. And two, Honorable Speaker, is what arrangements are in place to ensure that the staff are paid their full salaries without any further delay? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Next segment, request the Honorable Majority Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to give an update on the arrangements towards funeral of the late Honorable Justice Murunga, MP. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for according me consent to update members on the arrangements being made towards the funeral of the late Honorable Justice Murunga, MP, Matungu constituency. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, an ad hoc committee was established by your good self in line with the Parliamentary Service Commission's bereavement policy to coordinate arrangements towards the funeral of our departed colleague, the Honorable Justice Murunga, MP, and for which I'm serving as the chairperson. Honorable Speaker, the committee held its first meeting yesterday and commenced arrangements on how best to assist the family of the late Honorable Murunga to ensure that he gets a befitting send-off. Part of the committee has already visited the family, and we shall soon be briefing members on funeral and other arrangements in due course. At the present, Honorable Speaker, I wish to remind members that in line with our established tradition, as well as the parliamentary practice regarding bereaved colleagues, the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party have authorized the clerk of the National Assembly to deduct 10,000 shillings from every member for onward transmission to the family of our departed colleague. Thus, Honorable Speaker, we are subsequently to expect a deduction of this amount from our pay in this month. We shall keep the House updated on further progress made in the funeral arrangement. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sossion.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the welfare of intern teachers serving under the Teacher Service Commission. Honorable Speaker, the government of Kenya has in the recent past adopted a systematic approach of utilizing interns across its ministries, state corporations, and agencies in view of the myriad of benefits that emanate from a robust internship program that includes the opportunity to obtain fresh perspectives as well as ability to evaluate emerging talent and professions in the economy. However, institutions such as the Teacher Service Commission have now introduced measures that include deductions of higher education loans board and union deductions, as well as union deductions from the remuneration received by these interns. Honorable Speaker, the government's internship program is an important undertaking that needs to be continuously safeguarded, and it is on account of this concern that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the following. 1. Why does the Teacher Service Commission pay its interns Kenya shillings 15,000 despite the official government pay rate for interns being at Kenya shillings 25,000 per month? 2. Why are interns' terms not upgraded to permanent and pensionable at the end of the one-year period contract? 3. What is the rationale for deducting the Higher Education Loans Board loans from interns, yet they are engaged for only short durations? And 4, why does the Teacher Service Commission compel interns to remit union deduction without their consent, contrary to Article 41 of the Constitution? And finally, Honorable Speaker, why does the Teacher Service Commission automate deductions specifically to Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers only, and not any other union on the interns' payroll without the consent of teachers. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, you want a statement to be read because it looks like a mouthful, and since you are an active member of that committee, I thought this is a matter that could be easily canvassed there. But since you want a statement, is the Honorable Florence Mutua in the chamber? Or the Honorable Florence Mutua is, let me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I've had the request of statement from Honorable Sosion. We'll be able to deal with it before we go on for recess. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Honorable Duale.
Speaker, under your leadership, this House has been known for introducing reforms, including the Kiswahili version of signing orders, kanuni ya kudumu. So, Speaker, I think you need to give at some stage a direction, because without respect to Honorable Sosion, there is an aspect of conflict of interest stated in the standing orders. Because one, Honorable Sosion is asking a question to a committee which he belongs. Two, he's asking a question to a union that he represents. So we need to know at what stage does Honorable Sosion in that committee, in its sitting, at what stage is he the Secretary General of NAT, so that we protect the government public officials? At what stage is he the nominated member of Parliament representing special interests? At what stage is he a member of the committee? So, Mr. Speaker, you know, there must be some tidiness and decency and distinctions and, you know, boundaries. So I think, Mr. Speaker, it's not for today, but I think going forward, the committee that deals with the standing orders, this must be very, very clear, Mr. Speaker, because there's a matter on that. I know he has a serious issue with the Secretary General, with the CEO of TSC, but Parliament is under obligation in its committees and also it's in plenary to protect public and state officials who cannot defend themselves. So the committee under Honorable Florence Mutua can interrogate those questions. But I think going forward, Honorable Sosion cannot have the cake and eat it. He can't wear many hats at the same time purporting to wear one hat.
Well, I don't think whether there is need for a debate. That's a matter that we have expressed. No, I don't need to be addressed on this. Sorry. I will not allow. You know, very many trade unionists now are beginning to raise up their hands. In fact, many of you who are trade unionists, we should be removed from the Committee of Labor, first and foremost. And those of you who belong to the teaching trade union, you should move away from education. So that what Honorable Dwele is saying is true, surely. Now, from that statement, there's something you said, money being deducted and being taken to a union called Kupet or something. That is not yours. Now, so it looks like then it's an issue which union should be getting what. It becomes very convoluted on our members. And I'm saying this because it's a matter that we have discussed in the past, but we left it to the good conscience of each of you, so that when you know that you represent Kenya Plantation Workers Union, then avoid being in the Agriculture Committee, because you'll be able to voice the concerns of that union better. And nobody will accuse you of having some vested interests, because you are not in the committee. But now you ask a question, you sit in the committee, the people who have to respond will be there. It becomes very difficult, very, very difficult to draw the line. And if the issue of conflict of interest has been very well addressed both in the Powers and Privileges Act, as well as in the Leadership and Integrity Act, and in our Constitution. Indeed, remember we're even supposed to have a register where you can register conflict of interest. I think Honorable Sosion would have registered that one. That is conflicted, whether we like it or not. Honorable Sosion, you don't have to address me on this. There's no way you can persuade anybody that when you are dealing with these matters that you just like any other member who left their constituency and just came here. Maybe it's something that you have sat in your union where you are the Secretary General, discussed. Now it becomes very difficult, and especially when you sit in that same committee. And I'm more acutely aware that you are also in the Labor Committee with a few others, not just yourself, including the member who was raising his hand up there. I know. I'm trying to look for the other one also. There's somebody, another one. Yes, I can see, yes. The Honorable Tonui, yes. Yeah, and several others, Omboko Milemba. So, sometimes it's only fair. Sometimes if you can, on your own volition, opt out. And in fact, I think you can imagine how useful the Honorable Sosion would be when he's not a member of the Education Committee, when he is appearing before that committee and prosecuting matters about the union without anybody who is there responding, feeling that either they are sharing information with the committee which you are then picking and maybe possibly using it in your other union meetings. It will be, I believe you would do very, very well if you are not a member of that committee, because I'm sure the Florence Mutua committee would benefit a great deal when you are prosecuting these issues. But now, when people appear before you, give information, and you are the one who has sought that information, then later that information is found elsewhere, it becomes like there's compromise. But I would rather leave it to you members. It's a matter that I think the Rules Committee will be considering it, as happens normally at the end of this term. No, there's nothing out of order. The Leader of Majority, you have a statement.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44, 2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Wednesday, November 18, 2020, to prioritize business for consideration. Yeah. Honorable Speaker, on Tuesday next week, the following business has been prioritized for consideration. One, if the debate on the presidential address is not completed today, it will proceed as the last, third and final day. If we complete today, we will start with the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on the annulment of the crops, sugar general regulations of 2020. Then the approval of nominees to the various national government and CDF constituency committees. And Honorable Speaker, this is subject to the members of those committees that will be the subject of debate being in the House. The report of the Committee on the Delegated Legislation on the annulment of the crops, fiber crop regulations of 2020. Then we have the Committee of the Whole House on the T-Bill, which is the Senate Bill number 36 of 2018. You look at then the report of the Transport, Public Works and Housing Committee on the inquiry into the use of the standard gauge railway. This is a continuation of debate. And the report on the Sports, Culture and Tourism Committee on the inquiry into the status of stadia in Kenya. And lastly, the report of the Committee on Implementation on the Public Petition on Reconsideration of a Resolution of the House. And I'll speak in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A5 and 42A6. I wish to convey that the following cabinet secretaries are scheduled to appear before departmental committees as follows. Number one, the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife will appear before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on Tuesday, 24th of November, to respond to questions from the following members: the Honorable Rehema Jaldesa MP, the Honorable Anthony Kiai MP, the Honorable Stanley Mudama MP. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government will appear before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on Wednesday, the 25th November 2020, to respond to questions from the following members of Parliament: the Honorable Sylvanus Maritim, the Honorable Kip Sengeret Koros, Honorable Kalicha Gufu, Honorable Edith Nyenze, Honorable Sharif Ali, Honorable Alfred Agoy, Honorable Robert Mbui, Honorable Caleb Kostani, Honorable Bishop Kawira Mwangaza, and then the Cabinet Secretary for Energy will appear before the Departmental Committee on Energy on Wednesday, 25th November 2020, to respond to questions from the following members: the Honorable Josephat Kabebea, Honorable Didimas Baraza, Honorable Jessica Mbalu, Honorable Alois Lentoimaga, and Honorable Dr. James Nyikal. The Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection will appear before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on Wednesday, 25th November 2020, to respond to questions from the following members: the Honorable Josephat Kabebea, the Honorable Stanley Muthama. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 24th of November to schedule business for the coming week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you.
Member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm rising to appeal to your magnanimity, seeking I'm requesting actually that the petition that I just read regarding the establishment of a retirement package for the Auditor General be directed to the Committee on Implementation of the Constitution rather than going to this Finance and National Planning Committee. And reason being, Mr. Speaker, that I do believe that even in the existing laws of our which are in our Constitution, there are ways of ensuring that this happens by just implementing the Constitution as is, without necessarily even having to make new laws. So I was requesting that we could move this petition to the Committee on Implementation of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker.
Well, if it's your desire that that the petition be redirected, it is so ordered that the petition be directed to the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, the committee chaired by the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni.
Because, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, because I wouldn't afford to risk having this going to the Committee of Finance, ending up in Treasury, and dying a natural death yet again. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Not that in the Treasury there is a place for those who are naturally dead, but but member for Mwea, what's your? I can see you are burning to say something, but
thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, I have a burning issue, Honorable Speaker. On the 15th of October this year, I did receive a response from the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on a request for a statement that I had directed to them, Mr. Speaker, on a rooming crisis on the rice industry in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. And during that time, the discussion ended up with the chair proposing, or rather saying, that the National Cereals and Produce Board will buy rice from Mwea, Mr. Speaker. That is what the committee chair did say that time. Mr. Speaker, as we are speaking, the rooming crisis that I talked about then is now with us. Our societies are full with rice. They do not have money to buy any more rice from farmers, and we have a bumper harvest of rice in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. The boards do not know where to take this rice. Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking your indulgence for the Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to summon NCPB next week so that we can discuss this issue, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, our farmers are suffering back home, Mr. Speaker. That's why I am seeking your indulgence on this particular matter, Mr. Speaker.
Is the chair of Committee on Trade in the House? Because you see, you may not be able to, as it were, summon people. There must have been notice, invitation, which they have failed to attend, to honor another one, until it becomes necessary now for summons to issue. Now, is there the Honorable Haji? Does he have a vice? Is there any a member of the Committee on Trade? Maybe the committee is it's one of those ones which is not worried about COVID-19, I think. Because how can all the membership be out of the chamber? So, Honorable Kabinga Wachira, your request will be channeled through the Office of the Leader of Majority to communicate to the chair of Committee on Trade to see whether they can invite the National Cereals and Produce Board to a meeting sometimes next week. Yeah, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for that directive, Mr. Honorable Speaker. As I said, this is a very serious case. Our farmers don't know where to take the rice that they have in the fields. And Honorable Speaker, some brokers have started taking advantage of the same. The President issued a directive for rice to cost 85 shillings per kilo per day. It's now going for 50 shillings, Mr. Speaker. And if we allow it to move that way, we are going to have total crisis. I would therefore beg that NCPB, because it's the one that took over from the Strategic Food Reserve Fund, to appear or to be invited early next week. We discuss this issue, Mr. Speaker.
So, as I've said, the Leader Majority will communicate that matter to the committee. The Honorable Florence Mutua, you have some statement to make?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a response to the request for statement regarding recruitment of teachers by Honorable William Kamket Kasait, MP, Tiati constituency. The request was, the response was to come from Teacher Service Commission, Dr. Nancy Njeri Macharia, who is the CEO. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of background information which I don't think is necessary right now. So, Mr. Speaker, kindly, I'll just go straight to the question. And the question was, first one, were key stakeholders consulted during drafting of the criteria policy for recruitment of teachers? And Mr. Speaker, I'll start by reading the recruitment of teachers in public service. And it reads, the Teacher Service Commission, being a constitutional body, is bound by the provisions of the Constitution that provides for the values and principles of public service. In discharging its mandate in recruitment of teachers, the Commission has endeavored to apply the principle of fair competition and merit as the basis of recruitment. The Commission also considers other factors such as equity, fairness, regional balance, non-discrimination, patriotism, national unity, sharing representation of Kenya's diverse communities, etc. The key principle driving recruitment and deployment of teachers is that TSC is an equal opportunity employer that abides by the tenets of the law espoused under the Constitution of Kenya. The Teacher Service Commission Act, the Employment Act, the National Cohesion and Integration Act, among others, among other pieces of legislation. Accordingly, all employment vacancies are filled competitively with the objective to promote national values, fairness, non-discrimination, and equity. The available vacancies are advertised based on the demand for and supply of teachers, considering the existing establishments and budgetary provisions as provided. The Commission's policy on recruitment of teachers is contained in Part 5 of the Teacher Service Commission Code of Regulations for Teachers, which reads, Mr. Speaker, as follows. The Commission shall recruit registered teachers in accordance with the recruitment guidelines issued from time to time. The Commission shall advertise available vacancies based on the demand for and supply of teachers and taking into consideration the existing establishments. Third, a teacher who is recruited by the Commission may be deployed to serve in any part of the country based on the teaching service requirements. The Commission shall issue an offer letter of employment on permanent and pensionable basis to a person employed to teach in a primary or a post-primary institution in the manner set out to the 11th schedule A and B respectively. An offer of employment letter on contractual terms to a teacher in the manner set out in the 12th schedule, or a posting letter to a teacher appointed on permanent and pensionable or contractual terms to teach in a primary institution as set out in the 3rd schedule. Mr. Speaker, in developing the Code of Regulations for Teachers, the Commission strictly adhered to the provisions of the Constitution that underscores the principle of public participation and the provisions of Statutory Instruments Act 2010, which govern the process of developing subsidiary legislations. In addition, the Commission also complied with the requirements of the Statutory Instruments Act 2015 as is required by law. Thus, every clause in the Code of Regulations was discussed, negotiated, and agreed upon by all stakeholders in the education sector. These stakeholders included, Mr. Speaker, Ministry of Education, the National Assembly and its committees, that is, Committee on Education and Research and the Committee on Delegated Legislation, C, the Senate and its Committee on Education, D, Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, Kenya Primary School Heads Association, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, and Kenya National Union of Teachers, and Kenya Parents Association. Mr. Speaker, that is the first question. Question 2, very quickly. What particular factors informed the adoption of the criteria used during
Your mic has gone off. Can you give her a mic?
Mr. Speaker, thank you. The second question is, what particular factors informed the adoption of the criteria used during recruitment, and which particular entity approved the criteria? And the response, Mr. Speaker, reads, Regulation 55(1) of the Code of Regulations provides that the Commission shall recruit registered teachers in accordance with the recruitment guidelines issued from time to time. The following factors inform the adoption of criteria used in recruitment. 1, principles of fair competition and merit as the basis for appointment of public officers. The criteria ensures that those who graduated earlier are given first priority in recruitment. Transparency and accountability, equity, fairness and impartiality, inclusiveness and non-discrimination. Broad national objectives which include enhancing national cohesion and integration among communities. Promotion of objectivity and certainty as the applicants are conscious of their chances of being recruited in any of the vacancies declared. Affirmative action. People with disabilities are treated to a difference score to increase their chances of being recruited. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the criteria is approved by the members of the Commission as per the established procedure pursuant to Article 2372B of the Constitution. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the third question from the, sorry, you had 4 questions. The third question, Mr. Speaker, what measures has the Teacher Service Commission put in place to amend the recruitment policy in view of the fact that certain requirements under the criteria such as internship has disadvantaged many candidates? And the response, Mr. Speaker, reads, internship program is a government policy that ensures that young people are accorded opportunity to acquire practical skills and experience to make them ready for the job market. In line with the government policy on internship program in the Commission is intended to provide opportunity for qualified teachers to acquire, develop, and sharpen their teaching skills, and also learn the ethos of the teaching service. The Commission, through its experienced teachers, offers coaching and mentorship to interns with a view of making them all-round teachers. Honorable members may note that engagement of interns is conducted through an elaborate, open, transparent, and competitive selection process targeting teachers who are yet to enter the employment of the Commission. Advertisement, selection, and engagement of teacher interns is governed by the same teachers' employment policy that governs recruitment of teachers under permanent and pensionable terms. Therefore, recruitment of interns being administered under the same policy as for teacher employment ensures that both candidates, that is the interns and teachers, pass through the same criteria before engagement. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, in addition, interns being themselves unemployed teachers, their recruitment for employment under permanent and pensionable terms of service does not disadvantage other prospective teachers seeking recruitment under similar terms of service. The last question, Mr. Speaker, what specific measures is the Teacher Service Commission undertaking to protect interests of local communities during recruitment of primary and secondary school teachers? And the response, Mr. Speaker, reads, the constitutional design of the Republic of Kenya and its ideals aspires one cohesive nation founded on the national values and principles of governance. National public bodies like TSC are bound to inculcate and promote essential values like patriotism, national unity, the rule of law, inclusiveness, equity, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized, good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, and sustainable development. And the last reads, the limited budget, and this is very key, Mr. Speaker, the TSC receives for recruitment must, as a matter of fairness, be distributed to all counties without discrimination, as per Section 5 of the Employment Act. The Commission strives to give equal opportunity for all Kenyans. To this end, the Commission has been allocating the available vacancies based on the overall understaffing in the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I had given the honorable member the response in time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Honorable Kamket.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very emotive matter, Mr. Speaker, to me, and I'm sure maybe also to many members here. The matter of recruitment of teachers, especially secondary school teachers, Mr. Speaker, has been a very big problem to us. And especially, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, in fact, the most important question in this statement, Mr. Speaker, is the last question about the protection of local communities. Mr. Speaker, we have a situation in this country where whenever teachers are recruited, our constituencies become recruitment centers or employment bureaus for people other than the people whom we represent. And we get, Mr. Speaker, a very big backlash as leaders, elected leaders, when our own children or teachers come seeking employment and they are turned away because of this factor, these very good factors that the chairperson has read. This is a very comprehensive statement, but it does not help me. It does not help the people I represent. It is, and I go home very disappointed. The ideals of the Constitution are fair, everything is fair, but the reality on the ground, Mr. Speaker, is that the people we represent do not get these employments. I do not know, I'm very frustrated, Mr. Speaker, on what to do with these teachers who have graduated and other people come. We are all Kenyans, that's true. But what do I do, Mr. Speaker, with all these teachers who have graduated? Somebody comes from another place and then they don't get these jobs. It's something we need to consider, Mr. Speaker, as an assembly or as leadership, so that we give equal opportunity to local communities and even protect them more. Because it's a major, major problem. And then after they are employed, after three months, they seek transfers.
Honorable Kaluma.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I thank you. Mr. Speaker, looking at the policy on recruitment of teachers, it appears on the face of it to be very good. But Mr. Speaker, there are two problems which need to be addressed. Mr. Speaker, all these teachers being recruited are teachers who have passed through teacher training colleges. In fact, for primary school teachers, the P1 teachers in particular, they are teachers who have gone through teacher training colleges, which are government institutions. They have gone through practicals. I remember I was a pupil in a school which used to host these teachers, and they are graded properly. As teacher, the ideal situation should be that when teachers are trained and they have their TSC numbers subsequently, and they have graduated from the colleges, they should be absorbed on a first to graduate, first to enter, or recruited basis. When you then create another thing you call an interview subsequent, we are merely creating an avenue for the officers now undertaking the recruitment to get money from whoever has the money and whoever doesn't. We have cases in the country, Mr. Speaker, where a person graduates like within this year, the following year is recruited. Others are taking over 10 years. And these are people who have been trained on practical teaching. So there is unfairness to a large extent. In fact, they are forgotten completely. Mr. Speaker, number two, there is a reason as to why the recruitment of teachers is spread across counties. You cannot be saying that in a constituency like Homa Bay, because it is called Homa Bay Town, there are no indigenous communities. I can confirm, Mr. Speaker, for the last 5 years, and it is something I think I took to the Education Committee before Honorable Florence Mutua took over leadership of that committee. For the past several years, you ask in that one clan called Kanyada constituting Homa Bay Town constituency, who has been recruited? Nobody. Nobody. Because the TSC leadership are not indigenous people. So what has been happening, as Honorable Kamket says, is that you will get this person, people are being recruited from elsewhere, they'll stay within the county for some 2-3 months, they get transferred. The local people are doing farming, the local teachers are doing border, and then they're trained, they cannot be absorbed. I think that the response has come well, and I'm very happy that we have a chair of the committee that can go into these deep issues. But I think there is need for review. If the reason as to why this thing has not been spread is that the local people across the country are not going in, then it is serving no purpose. But the idea that you are subjecting to people who have qualified through teacher training colleges to things you are calling interviews to grade them, Mr. Speaker, it is big corruption. Big corruption. I've followed this thing up in Homa Bay Town. In fact, you don't have something like 300,000 shillings, you'll not be recruited. So the poor people are languishing. And yet when you walk around schools, those people not being recruited are, teaching freely, and their subjects are the ones performing best. So I request that in as much as we have a comprehensive response, we sit deep again, not just to, confirm the policy is good, but to hear the cries coming from Kenya so that we have a recruitment system which is actually fair and in accord with the public service codes. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honourable members, let me, because this was a response to a request for a statement, let me suggest this, because this is something that obviously affects the entire country. The best way to deal with it would be, at the earliest, when we have a house retreat, maybe the Honorable Florence Mutua, you consider to remind the clerk to invite the mandarins in the TSC, the leadership of Teacher Service Commission, and possibly even the ministry, to be present, because this is a matter that even if I allow this, I can see that a number of you want to make comments on it, but I suspect you are merely going to lament in the same manner as the Honorable Kamket, the Honorable Kaluma. Now, so that we don't become a place where people only lament. We don't want, no, that's a new dimension. Let's not cry. Let's not cry. Let me suggest that the Honorable Kimunya will take up the matter, so that this matter, Honorable Florence Mutua, you place it as one of the topics to be discussed by either the CEO of the Teachers House Commission or whoever it is that attends at that seminar, a workshop, a proper seminar for members of parliament in the National Assembly, where we discuss, among others, this particular issue. But also, honor members, because whenever we have seminars, these workshops, and that's why I always raise that issue, maybe by the time the particular person is supposed to be addressing the issue, many of you have already taken off. Like now I'm seeing very many of you telling me that you are going to Mombasa. I don't know what you are going to do in Mombasa. And one of members, everybody has been cautioned not to let their guard down. Don't just rush into hotels. Those are dangerous places. Yeah? So when we have that seminar, whenever it's going to be, but not too long ago from now, I would expect that there will be a house full members, because this is something that affects every corner of the Republic, isn't it? So that as many of you as possible are able to raise those issues with the people responsible. Because even if you raise it now with the Honorable Florence Mutua, she would have to again to go and sit with the leadership of the Teacher Service Commission or maybe whoever else, and then bring another response. And obviously, as the Honorable Kamketia said rightly, that response is it's the kind of thing that can earn somebody 90% if it was to be marked on the basis of what is in the Constitution. But the Honorable Kaluma is giving a different story about some clan which doesn't get employed. Yet the statement is, and what Honorable Kaluma said, is there are some people who have been out there who haven't been employed for more than 5-10 years, and others who have graduated and less than 2 years they have jobs. Yet the statement read out by the Honorable Mutua acknowledges that recruitment is on the basis of first come, first served. Those who finished earlier get the chance to be employed first. So you see, we need to understand that from the point of view of those who implement that policy. They'll be the best place. Honorable Florence Mutua, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the comment from the Honorable Member and the Honorable Kaluma. Recently, we had a retreat with the TSC, and actually we raised this issue. We requested them to furnish us, the committee, all the constituencies, how they have done the hiring, the locals vis-a-vis the non-locals. So during the retreat, it's good that you've requested that we invite them. I think that will be the best place for them to come with that list, how they've recruited the locals vis-a-vis the non-locals. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the Code of Regulations is a live document, just like the Constitution. So if it is not working, it can actually be amended. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Annulment of the Special Economic Zones Amendment Regulations 2020. Question to be put.
Honourable members, debate on this motion had been concluded on Tuesday, and what remained was the question to be put, which I hereby do. This House adopts a report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Special Economic Zones Amendment Regulations 2020, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 3, 2020, and pursuant to Section 18 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013, and standing under 210, subsection 4, paragraph B, annuls in entirety the Special Economic Zones Amendment Regulations 2020, legal notice number 33 of 2020. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion. Debate on President's Address, Day 2.
Who was on the floor? Oh, no, you see.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to support the address by His Excellency the President, which was in fulfillment of a constitutional duty under Article 132, 1B of the Constitution, that requires and obligates the head of state once every year to address a special sitting of Parliament. And the President is obligated to place before the two speakers of the House specific documents that deals with the national security, a document that deals with the realization of national values as referred to in Article 10 and how his government is complying with, and finally to tell the country and the nation and the House the progress made in fulfilling Kenya's international obligation. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about many things, from COVID to his economic blueprint, in achieving the national transformative agenda and economic development. The President talked about his vision in terms of the Big Four agenda and the prevailing state of the national security. The Speaker, on the onset, let me talk about COVID-19 and its impact on our socio-economic and political life. Speaker, it was very sad for members of a committee to cry on national television. It's very, very sad. And I was scared the Honorable Kamket was about to cry, just because his statement was not adequately answered. Speaker, members of Parliament have constitutional powers under Article 93, 94, 95, and 96. They have powers under Article 121 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the House is the one that deals with the budget-making process and oversight. Mr. Speaker, it's very sad that the Committee of Parliament, the Committee of Health, instead of working closely with the National Treasury, inviting the Minister for Health, compel him, and if he doesn't listen to the House, there are powers to deal with him, work with the Budget Committee and the leadership of the House, and provide resources to pay our frontline health workers. Speaker, we cannot expose our frontline health workers to what we are seeing. And of course, of all people, a seasoned doctor, a former PS, a former director of medical services, crying on national television. The Speaker, that was an indictment of the whole House. And I want to categorically say, I am not part of those who are going to cry. And if there are people who want to cry, please, you cry in your own individual capacity. Go to television, cry there. Don't cry in the committee, because the committee is an extension of the House. Mr. Speaker, our doctors are dying. Kenyans are dying. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. You know, I said a long time ago there should be change of guard. Our doctors are dying. Our Kenyan citizens are dying. And it was very sad. Even the other day I was not in the House for a member of Parliament to ask for a chopper. It's very ugly. We don't need a chopper. We want to be treated the way other citizens are treated. We want to go through what our voters are going through. Speaker, members of Parliament are not special class. But this House must rise to the occasion. And we must leave anything else we are doing. And as a country, our resources, our energy, we must focus on the war against the COVID-19. So, Speaker, if we don't do that, Madam Speaker, if we don't do that, give me another. Yes, Madam Speaker, with your permission,
yes,
you allow me 2
Honorable
minutes.
Duale. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, we must rise to the occasion. And I'm sure those of us who are sitting here, our people are dying. The numbers you see announced by the Minister of Health, those numbers are less than 0.01%. Kenyans are dying in their villages. And for me as a Muslim, we bury within the first 6, 7, 8 hours a person passes on. The infection rate has gone up. Speaker, it's very sad today that as a country, we even don't have an insurance cover for our civil servants. NHIF came up and said they can't cover COVID patients. Speaker, more so, we're not addressing the situation of the healthcare system in the counties. Either the National Treasury is not giving them money, or they are eating the money meant for COVID. If you go to any of the counties, level 5 hospital or Rivaro hospital, Madam Speaker, you will find there are no ICU beds, there are no PPEs, there are no masks. I was in my constituency. People who can't even raise 500 shilling for their daily bread are being told to buy a mask for 1,000, for 2,000, for 500. Speaker, the President must declare COVID-19 as a national disaster. And above all, we, the leadership, must lead by example. We must tell our people, number one, we must protect the vulnerable section of our society, the elderly, the people with the conditions, those who their immune system is not very strong. Speaker, a spade must be called a spade, not a big spoon. The Health Committee, the Finance Committee of this House, and the Budget Committee must ask the Minister for National Treasury to bring a supplementary estimate that will redirect the resources we have towards fighting this epidemic called COVID-19. Finally, Madam Speaker, if we want to build a cohesive nation, a united nation, the Malakote people who are the minority in Tharaka and in Garissa, their voices must be heard. You cannot build one Kenya when you leave the pastoralist, when you leave the church, when you leave the women. And I want to speak to the women of Kenya. You better remain in this house where you'll become ministers and assistant ministers. Please don't go to the Senate. The Senate, in its current formation, is a house of the old. In its proposed formation, the Senate will be like the county assemblies. How can you leave an assembly where you have a chance of becoming a deputy prime minister or a prime minister, and you go to a house where you won't get even a kindergarten position? I support Madam Speaker.
I'm just trying to know who is where. No, honorable members, that's not what I mean. I mean there's a queue. So I'll balance both sides. So let's not be anxious. And please, if you have spoken to the motion, don't repeat again. The clerks, what happened? Honorable Ladagala? Okay, honorable members, if you have spoken to the motion, please take out your card. I'm just calling out the names as they appear on the list here. So if you're not keen on contributing to the presidential address, please remove your card. The Honorable Chachuganya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this presidential address. Madam Speaker, I truly appreciate the speech given by the President in his address to our nation, as he has done on many occasions. Madam Speaker, the President raised many issues of national importance. It was delivered during a very extraordinary period when we are facing COVID-19 pandemic. And in doing so, the President did highlight many achievements his government have made in the last year and a half. Namely, Madam Speaker's Nairobi Expressway project, Nairobi Mau Summit Expressway project, Lamu Port Bad 1, which has been completed now, installation of Likoni floating bridge, which is the first floating bridge in our country. He also mentioned the rehabilitation of Kisimu project, which have been completed and now operational. Madam Speaker, having highlighted some of these key investments in our infrastructure, the President also did raise the issue of Building Bridges Initiative. It's an initiative that will try to address critical challenges our country is facing. Among these is negative ethnicity, issues of inclusion, equitable development, corruption, among others. Madam Speaker, the President mentioned that through BBI initiative, we will try to address these challenges and hopefully lay a foundation for a prosperous nation, where tribalism, corruption, and all these negative aspects of our nation will not be celebrated, but we will have a strategy through our constitution to address them. Mr. Speaker, the speech, though, failed to adequately address few issues. For instance, the impact of COVID-19 on our health and economy was not fully addressed. And I really felt, since for the whole year we have been dealing with this pandemic, the President will come out with a clear message for the nation. So, Madam Speaker, the rollout of universal health coverage is highly welcomed. Similarly, the far-reaching reforms in NHIF is also highly appreciated. But, Madam Speaker, I expected the President to direct NHIF, which is a government corporation, to really come up with the strategies and mechanisms of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic in our country, especially in terms of covering the most vulnerable Kenyans who have this cover. At the moment, civil servants and teachers are covered because they have comprehensive coverage, but other Kenyans are not covered, and they are on their own when they feel sick to this pandemic. Madam Speaker, I also expected the President to really consider our frontline healthcare workers. He did appreciate their work in his speech, which is highly welcomed, but I really wanted to see some tangible mechanisms, some tangible provision from the states, especially in terms of personal protective gear, equipments, payment even of the allowances, even healthcare coverage for healthcare workers, so that, Madam Speaker, they are able to really take care of themselves as they take care of the rest of the Kenyans. Madam Speaker, the speech was good in many fronts. A lot of issues were covered. But as I said, Madam Speaker, in my initial remarks, I really felt that it was short of really addressing the serious pandemic that we are facing, which is COVID-19. I really wanted to know what the nation is doing, what the Council of Governors is doing, because they have a national summit where the President is briefed. I wanted to know what's happening in our counties at the national level. But, Madam Speaker, I have not heard much of this. Madam Speaker, now that the vaccine is almost there with us, They have been proven to be 95, even 99% effective, I'm told, by University of Oxford in the UK. I really hope our government will come up with a strategy, a mechanism of buying vaccine for 50 million Kenyans. We are capable of doing so. Let's buy 50 million vaccines and ensure every Kenyan, everywhere is vaccinated against this pandemic. I support the speech, Madam Speaker.
Honorable David Oche.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to support the President's speech, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this speech was delivered as a duty under the Constitution. And as Kenyans, as members of Parliament, you have a duty, Madam Speaker, to support the President because he's the President of the Republic, and to make him succeed, and to make the country succeed. And so, as part of our duty, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that when the President is speaking to the Assembly and talking about things that have been done and are required according to the Constitution, we can see tangible, visible, and actionable results as per what the Constitution requires, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President talked about what he has done and his government has done about ensuring that we have national values and principles of governance effectuated. But, Madam Speaker, I don't know whether it is true that 8 years down the lane, Uhuru's government is more inclusive than the government that was before he came to office. I cannot say that with confidence that he has taken steps to ensure that Article 10 of the Constitution is lived up to. Madam Speaker, time and again in this Assembly, we have had to just allow his appointments, saying, let's just pass them for him so that we don't disgrace him. But his appointments in so many places, Madam Speaker, have been so trebly skewed that they would not pass the test of inclusivity, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've been in this House and I've seen how sometimes members in committees are told, this is for the President. He wants this very badly. Madam Speaker, you cannot build a country based on the Constitution if you willy-nilly at every corner get a chance and reason to abrogate the Constitution. You cannot say, Madam Speaker, today that Kenyans feel they are Kenyans. They feel like part of the country. They feel patriotic because there are no practical steps being taken by the presidency and the executive to make us feel part of the country. Madam Speaker, he spoke about economic governance, economic empowerment. And I've checked some of the projects he talked about here, Madam Speaker. The SGR, the expressway. How Kenyan are these projects? Yes, they are being built on Kenyan soil. But can you say that those implementing them are Kenyans? Can you say that the money is being used to build them remain here? I've talked about this several before, Madam Speaker. And there's no way this government or this country will grow if at every chance we get to grow economically, we throw back money to Europe and China. In building SGR, the smallest items, the bolts and nuts, were being imported. Now, in building the express highway, Madam Speaker, you'll check that the equipment, the things being used to build the expressway are hardly Kenyan. The manpower being used is hardly Kenyan. So how do you build an economy? How do you ensure that all these projects that we are implementing, Madam Speaker, are Kenyan? There's no way you're going to bring the youth out of poverty when every opportunity you get to do big projects, you give it back to China, you give it back to the Europeans. And there's no framework for ensuring that there's transfer of technology and all these kind of things, Madam Speaker. It's painful. We may have achieved a lot in terms of what's on the ground, but most of the monies don't remain with us, Madam Speaker. The President who spoke to us here last week was so bullish in 2013 about the youth empowerment. He was so bullish about how it's going to transform the lives of the youth. Madam Speaker, every youth you meet now in Kenya today wants to give up. They don't know whether tomorrow is going to be a better day than yesterday. Because we've not have projects that are sustainable, that can make the youth feel like this we can do and go somewhere. We are still living in this economy where you have to know somebody, Madam Speaker. How many people would the youth get to know, the millions of them, to make sure that they get into the mainstream economy, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the informal economy is part of our economy. We must put more energy in it. Even as the President says that he has put so much money on COVID, or VAT, blah, blah, most of the people he's saying are going to benefit from the VAT have no earnings. Let's target all our interventions on COVID to the lowest ebb, the lowest person in the economy, so that we ensure that we carry them along. Madam Speaker, if you go to Busia today, the waiters, I'm sorry my time is up, but I really had so much to say, Madam Speaker, but I want to say that let the President walk the talk. Intentions, like he said in paragraph 8 of his speech, intentions are not enough. Let us see him in his last 18 months taking proper steps to ensure that the young people of this country feel part of the country and feel that their interests are being taken care of. Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Honorable Jesira Cheriot.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii pia umenipa niweze kuchangia mswada huu wa kuongea kwa sababu ya ile ripoti ya Mheshimiwa Rais. Mheshimiwa Spika, hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais ilikuwa imefana kabisa. Aliongea mambo mengi ambayo si lazima sisi wote tuyafurahie, lakini kwangu mimi nasema ni asante, manake aliweza kuyataja mambo ambayo yanakuza mwananchi wa kawaida. Janga ambalo liko sasa la corona ama COVID-19 ni jambo ambalo limeleta shida sana nchini humu kwetu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mpaka hata sisi wengine tumeweza kupoteza mandugu na marafiki na watu wetu wa karibu kwa sababu ya ugonjwa huu. Anaposema wamewekeza kama nchi pesa nyingi sana kuweza kupigana na janga hili, ni kweli, lakini kuna shida kwamba wale ambao wanapewa hiyo nafasi ya kuweza kuhudumia wananchi kupitia fedha ambazo zimewekwa hawana ile utu kuweza kutumia fedha hii kwa njia ambayo inayofaa. Mheshimiwa Spika, inafaa kwamba jinsi ambavyo sisi wale tunawakilisha kina mama kule katika nafasi zetu za ubunge kwa fedha inaitwa NGAF na ile pesa za CDF, jinsi ambavyo tumewekewa mikakati jinsi ya kutumia zile fedha tunapewa, inafaa Mheshimiwa Spika pia kule kwa uongozi wa ukatuzi ama county governments pia wao wawekewe mikakati, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili fedha ambazo sisi tunaketi chini kupanga katika nchi hii ikienda huko mashinani, Mheshimiwa Spika, iweze kutumika kwa mikakati ambayo tayari na ratiba ambayo imepangwa, ili wale wasiwe tuna njia ya kutumia zile fedha kwa njia ambao wanafikiria. Ni vyema kwamba tuone fedha ambazo ziliwekwa pale, kwanza ile walipewa ya corona, wakapewa kila kaunti, tujue imefanya kazi gani, ili tuweze kuona kinagaubaga kwamba fedha hii imefanya hii na mwananchi anaweza ona na anafaidika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna mambo mengi ambayo yaliongelewa na hata uguzaji wa kuendeleza uchumi nchi hii. Ni bayana kwamba wananchi ama vijana nchi hii hawana kazi. Na katika ile hali Mheshimiwa Rais anaongelea, anasema kwamba tunahitaji kuwa na uhiano na utangamano. Watu wakae pamoja, tupate kuishi kwa amani, tusiweze kugawanyishwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, na upigaji wa kura. Ndiposa anajaribu kuleta huu muungano wa marejesho ili watu waje wakakaa pamoja, ili tuweze kusikizana, nchi hii ipate amani ya kudumu. Tunajua kwamba vijana wetu hawapati kazi, manake vijana hawa tunawatoa wanaweza kukamilisha masomo yao kwa wingi, wanaweza kusoma, na baada ya hiyo hawawezi kupata nafasi za kazi wao wote. Wengi wao ambao wanatoka kwa mashule yao ambao wamehudumu ama wamehitimu wanaweza kutoka, lakini nafasi za kazi nchini kidogo. Kwa hivyo katika wale wanawekeza kwa nchi hii katika biashara na mambo mengine ya kibinafsi, ndio ambao wangeweza kuandika vijana kazi. Shida ni kuwa hao ambao wanatakana kuja kuwekeza nchi hii hawana tena imani nasi na wanaogopa kuwekeza pesa zao nchi hii, maanake kila baada ya miaka 5 tuko vitani, tuko kukimbia. Na ni vyema kwamba wamefikiria tukae pamoja. Kwa mambo ya sisi akina mama kwa uongozi, wengi wanasema kwamba tumepoteza kwangu mimi ninasema tujapoteza. Manake nafasi zile zinaanzishwa ni nafasi mpya ya useneti. Si ati kwamba tunahamishwa katika chumba hili na tunahama chumba lile. Ni nafasi nyingine mpya ambao umetengenezwa, wanawake waweze kuchaguliwa tena, na uko na fursa ya kuchagua uende seneti ama ubaki hapa kwa nyumba hii ya National Assembly. Katika hiyo hali, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ninaunga mkono hotuba ya rais.
Member for Malindi.
Asante sana Madam Speaker. Kwanza nimesimama kupongeza hotuba ya rais wetu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya aliyoitoa wiki iliyopita. Ni jukumu lake kikatiba kufika mbele ya bunge na kutopa ratiba ya vile nchi na maendeleo ya kitaifa yanavyopaswa kuendelea na jinsi yalivyo na inavyopaswa sisi kama taifa kuendelea. Kitu ambacho kimenigusa sana Madam Speaker ni kuhusu ile hospitali ambayo alisema hospitali ya Madhare hospitali ya kuangalia masuala ya akili, hospitali ya Madhare. Nataka niseme hivi Madam Speaker, na mimi nikiwa ni shahidi wa juzi tu ya kwamba hospitali hii ama taasisi hii inahitaji kuangaliwa kwa umakini sana. Kule nje wa Kenya wanaumia kwa sababu kuangaliwa akili ama kuenda kupima akili ni sharti moja katika mahakama zetu kabla hujaweza kushtakiwa na makosa ya jinai. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima uangaliwe kwanza akili kama ziko timamu. Nasema hivyo kwa sababu mimi nilipitia hayo juzi na nimeona Wakenya wanaumia sana. Ya kwamba kwa mfano mkoa uliokuwa mkoa wa Pwani, taasisi moja peke yake ambao ni Coast General na daktari mmoja katika Pwani nzima ndio anaisimamia masuala hayo ya kuangalia akili za wale wote walioko rimande kabla hawajashtakiwa na makosa ya mauaji. Nilisikitika sana na nikaona ya kwamba mengine Mungu anaruhusu yafanyike ili wengine wakaweze kutetewa. Madam Speaker, hilo swala ni jambo ambalo linaumiza Wakenya wengi ambao hatima zao na miili yao na maisha yao yanaisha ndani ya sel kwa sababu ya kukosa huduma muhimu kama hii. Namshukuru sana rais, na ningependekeza ya kwamba labda mbeleni kabla kipindi chetu hakijaisha tutakuwa na sheria ambayo labda mimi mwenyewe kama mhusika mkuu nitakuwa tumeileta kuhakikisha ya kwamba hospitali hizi hazibaki Nairobi tu, lakini kila kaunti kuwe na hospitali hii ambayo itakuwa ni muhimu sana katika masuala ya kuweza kunusuru wengi ambao labda wako pale kwa maonevu, lakini wamekuwa pale kwa sababu ya kukosa huduma hii muhimu. Na pia vile vile katika swala hilo ni kwamba ikiwa leo ni siku ya wanaume katika dunia, nataka niseme ya kwamba wanaume wengi wanateseka. Unaweza kuwaona wako hivi wanacheka, lakini kwenye majumba zao wanapitana na mashaka. Akili zao sio vile tunavyofikiria ziko sawa. Tumeona kisa hapa leo Pumwani. Mtoto amepelekwa, not Pumwani but Nairobi Women. Mtoto wa miaka 4 na mtoto wa siku 4 amenajisiwa na babake. Huyo ni mtu ambaye kweli ana akili timamu. Kwa hiyo tunaweza kuwa tunacheka nao, lakini akili zao si mzuri. So hospitali hizi lazima ziboreshwe, Madam Speaker. Lengine ambalo mimi nataka kusema ni kwamba Kiswahili, na nataka nipongeze, though haikuwa katika hotuba ya rais, lakini alituzindulia ya kwamba katika bunge hili Kiswahili kitukuzwe na kizungumzwe, kwa sababu sisi tunatafuta kura kule chini kabla ya kuja hapa bungeni kwa lugha labda 3 ya mama ya taifa ambayo ni Kiswahili, lakini tukifika hapa tunaunda sheria katika lugha moja tu ya Kiingereza. na wale tunaoondia sheria kule hawatuelewi. So iwe bungeni Kiswahili kitukuzwe paka kotini, kwa sababu kule haki zinatafutwa na lugha ambayo wananchi wengi hawaielewi. Madam Speaker, la mwisho Madam Speaker ni kwamba COVID imetufunza mengi tena. Juzi tulipoteza ndugu yetu hapa, na ni kwa sababu gani sisi wenyewe kama wabunge hatuangalii hata hospitali zetu kule mashinani ziko vipi? Sisi kwa sababu tuna cover nzito nzito, wakati kama bima ya taifa haina cover na wabunge tunakuwa na cover kubwa. Kwa nini basi tusiangalie tena tukabadilisha mifumo ya kwamba labda cover zetu zipelekwe katika bima ya kitaifa, na sisi wote kama wabunge tuwe tunatibiwa katika hospitali za hapa nchini ambazo si private but public hospitals. Na
Member for Taita Taveta.
Shukran sana Madam Speaker, hata mimi kuweza kunipatia fursa ili niweze kuchangia swala hili ambalo tunaliongea hapa, na ni swala kuhusu hotuba ya rais. Na mimi nataka kusema kwamba hotuba ya rais ilikuwa sawa. Kuna mambo mengi ambayo aliyataja, na mojawapo likiwa ni mambo ya janga hili la corona. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kusema hivi: corona ipo, corona imeua, corona imeumiza na inazidi kuumiza Wakenya. Wakenya wanakufa, madaktari wanakufa, na hata sasa wajumbe wanakufa na walimu wanakufa. Ni wakati sasa, na ni uchungu sana kuona kwamba madaktari ambao tunawategemea kutusaidia wakati huu mgumu, hata wao pia wanafariki kwa ajili ya ugonjwa huu. Watu wanaumia mioyo, watu wanaumia na akili, watu wana uoga mkubwa sana. Ni wakati sasa kama nchi tuweze kuwajibika bila samahani. Ni wakati tuweze kuona kwamba hospitali zetu tumeweza kuziboresha kila sehemu ya nchi hii. Swala lingine ambalo pia ningependa kulitaja ambalo lilikuwa kwa hotuba ya rais ni jambo la elimu. Nashukuru kwa sababu kulikuwa na maswali mengi ya kwamba watoto wamekaa nyumbani muda mrefu na kunakuwa na sintofahamu ya kuwa ni lini basi watoto hawa watarudi shuleni ama itakuwa namna gani kuhusu masuala yetu ya elimu. Napongeza idara ya elimu ya kwamba walitokezea na kuweza kutoa ile ufahamu ya tarehe hasa ambazo mashule yetu yataenda kufunguliwa. Na swala ambalo ni swala kuu sasa ambalo tunafaa kuliangalia na kulimulika kama taifa ni kwamba, je, tumeweka miundo misingi ya kuweza kuwakaribisha watoto wetu ama kuweza kuwarudisha watoto wetu shuleni? Tunayo madarasa ya kutosha? Tunayo madawati? Na je, ile ada ya shule ambayo itakayolipwa? Kwa sababu tunajua wananchi wengi, wazazi wamekuwa nyumbani na wengi wamekosa kazi kwa sababu ya hii mambo ya corona, ya hili janga, na hawana fedha sasa. Je, watalipa vipi hiyo ada? Tunajua watoto wetu wamekaa nyumbani na wamekuwa wakubwa, na hata zile sare zao za shule haziwatoshi sasa. Kwa hivyo itakuwa ni kama mwanzo mpya kupeleka watoto, kuanzia sare za shule, kuanzia vitabu na hata ada za shule. Kwa hivyo ni wakati wa kuweza kuliangalia hilo swala na kuona ni vipi tutasaidiana na kusaidia jamii itakapofikia kurudisha watoto wetu shuleni. Nikimalizia pia swala lingine ambalo rais aliliongelea, alitaja ni mambo ya hii BBI. Na mimi kwa BBI nitasema kama kina mama bado tunahisi tumenyanyaswa, na tunasema bado kuwe na muda wa majadiliano, kuwe na muda wa majadiliano ili si kina mama peke yao, ila wadau mbalimbali waweze kuja na pia kutoa hoja zao pale ili kuwepo na uwiano. Nasema asante sana, na nikimalizia pia niwapongeze kina baba wote walioko hapa, na niwapongeze pia kina baba manyumbani na kina baba wote wa Kenya hii na nchi yote mzima, wale wanatenda wema, kwa sababu leo ni siku ya kina baba, International Men's Day. Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kunipatia hii fursa. Kina baba hata
Member for Wajir East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for making available time for me to contribute significantly on the address of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, the contributions and the address of His Excellency was very balanced and was able to give a lot of milestones that have been achieved in the country. But, Honorable Speaker, one thing I've observed is that most of the observations and the answers which has been given in the address were more general and lack a lot of specificity. There was the issue of, in terms of the corona. The corona is a pandemic. It has seriously affected the entire nation. It has disrupted the economy. There was no specificity in terms of its disruption of normal life. If you look at it, the great majority of the country is significantly affected by the corona, the pandemic. But His Excellency, as much as they have done significant effort to curb the menace in terms of imposition of movement and so many restrictions that have been done in the country in the past, but there is still a serious wave of the pandemic in the country. And most of those that are affected is the counties. Most of the counties are affected. How prepared are we in our hospitals in the counties? Most of the counties, if you look at it, which are the referral hospitals, are ill prepared. Do we have sufficient beds? Do we have the ventilators? This is something that we have been talking of for the past 6 months. And up to date, if you look at it, most of the counties are ill prepared to curb the issue of COVID. What is the synergy in terms of the implementation between the national government and the county government? What is the national government doing to ensure that the county government complies with its functions of delivering health services to its citizens? These are critical issues that have not been addressed, yet Kenyans continue to die as a result of the COVID. In terms of the universal health care, if you look at it, the nation has been able to spell it very clear, specific roadmaps on having universal health care. The NHIF is not sufficient enough. The medical insurances are not good enough, but they are great citizens of this country, the large population that are not covered in terms of the healthcare systems. What measures are there in place to cover the most vulnerable societies, particularly in this time of the pandemic? What measures are we doing as citizens, as leaders of this country? These are issues that need to be addressed significantly so that we can be able to confront this monster of the COVID. And this is one thing I expected His Excellency to come out very clearly, although it appears that he was rather more fatigued on the issue of the COVID. And even the Minister of Health seemed to be a lot of fatigue. So generally, we want more specificity. What actions are we making? What synergy are we going to have with the county government? How can we be able to make sure the county government enforces and provides the necessary requirement to fight COVID? In the issue of security, there was a significant improvement in the country in terms of security, particularly those constituencies that are bordering the border. And there's a significant reduction of Al-Shabaab attack, in particular in our area, and that is a commendable job which has been done by the security agencies and the Ministry for Interior, and I want to recommend that. Further to that, there are certain actions they have so far taken in terms of deployment of security agencies, and that is one thing that I will be able to comment in terms of the security. In terms of infrastructure, the electricity, the road network in northern Kenya, these are issues that have not been mentioned by His Excellency in the address. These are critical segments of the society. We cover a large mass of land, but we have not been connected to the grid. The road network to the northern Kenya has not been fully exploited. It's still having the gravel and we don't have roads. So these are efforts which will have been undertaken by His Excellency, and we expected that in the address of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and which has been, we felt it rather neglected in that matter. Thank you very much.
I'll now give the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. And you have 10 minutes, chairperson, according to the resolution in the order paper.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to associate myself fully with the words of His Excellency the President during his State of the Nation address to Parliament last week, when he indicated that the state of national security is strong. Madam Speaker, our national security apparatus has been on overdrive trying to ensure that we are secure despite the many challenges that we are experiencing as a country. Madam Speaker, a lot of security threats posed by terrorists have been thwarted by our gallant security officers led by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, working together very closely with the National Intelligence Service officers. We are indeed very grateful to our security officers who include our soldiers for putting their lives in harm's way to protect us. Madam Speaker, our police officers have since March of this year been playing a huge role in helping us combat the COVID-19 pandemic. They have been in the front line in the fight against COVID-19. In the initial days, they played a very big role in contact tracing our people who had come in contact with the COVID-19 positive cases. They also manned the very many roadblocks erected all over the country to restrict movement of our people in attempt to reduce COVID-19 spread. Madam Speaker, up to now, they are fully involved in ensuring that the current curfew in place is observed strictly. I want to urge this House to push for our police officers to get COVID-19 allowance, just like the other frontline workers, in the fight against COVID-19. Madam Speaker, in the near future, we would like to see the issue of psychosocial and welfare of police taken very seriously. Madam Speaker, we have lost a number of our police officers to COVID-19. I want to challenge all of us in the House to use our NGCDF to put up extra office space for the officers in our police stations and police posts to help our officers to have the required social distance in the workplace. Let us also install hand washing tanks in our police stations to maintain hygiene of our police officers and those visiting our police stations. Let us also extend this to our schools and especially those with very high populations. Madam Speaker, I want to also urge our national government administrative officers, especially the chiefs and assistant chiefs, to be more visible in the fight against COVID-19. Let them also be more visible in the fight against crime. Let them be in front line in the fight against radicalization of our youth. Let them activate and operationalize the Nyumba Kumi initiative to help prevent crime. Also to mention, Nyumba Kumi will assist us in fast-tracking the Huduma card registration. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I want to echo the words of His Excellency the President when he urged all of us to stop inciting fellow Kenyans against each other. Madam Speaker, words, whether spoken or written, have the potential to burn a whole nation. I want to urge our fellow politicians, our religious leaders, our media personalities, our bloggers, to stop inciting our people against each other. Let us stop the so-called Hustler Nation narrative because it is not healthy at all. We saw the way Rwanda went, and also the way Mali went, and also the way Burkina Faso has gone. Let's not play politics with our security. Thank you very much, my Honorable Speaker.
Member for Likoni.
Asante sana Bispika, na mimi pia nikipata nafasi hii kuweza kuzungumzia hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais. Na niseme hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais ilikuwa hotuba ya kizalendo sana, na amezungumzia mambo mengi sana. Nimesikia waheshimiwa wenzangu wakizungumzia janga la corona. Jamani, hakuna ambaye hakumuona Mheshimiwa Rais aking'ang'ana kabisa wakati tulipokuwa tumepata kesi ya kwanza ya corona. Hata viongozi wengine tukiwemo sisi wenyewe tulisema ya kwamba corona ni uongo, corona tu ni jambo la kutengezea watu pesa, na corona ni mambo ambayo ni ya propaganda. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niseme, wakati tunazungumzia pengine ufisadi katika mambo ya corona, sisi wajumbe tuna jukumu la kuangazia mambo ambavyo yanafanyika katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hata bunge la seneti lina nguvu ya kuangalia kule katika kaunti zetu katika mambo ya afya, kwa sababu afya imegatuliwa na iko mashinani, mambo yanaendelea vipi. Mimi nataka kumwambia Mheshimiwa Rais, katika zile jukumu zako ambazo ulifanya katika kupigana na janga hili, uongeze nguvu zaidi, tuweze kupata vifaa zaidi, tuweze kupata wahudumu wa afya zaidi, na tuweze kupata bima ya afya ya kitaifa ya kuweza kuangalia Wakenya kwa sababu ya janga hili baya la kitaifa. Vile vile pia Mheshimiwa Rais alizungumzia katika kujenga ajira 100,000 kwa vijana wetu, na mimi niweze kushukuru program ambayo inazungumziwa na jina la kazi mtaani. Programu hino imeweza kuchukua vijana hivi sasa 26,000 kupitia kaunti 34. Ni wakati ya kwamba kwa sababu janga la corona bado linaendelea, vijana waweze kuendelea katika programu hino ya kazi mtaani, na iweze kuangalia vijana wote katika kaunti zetu 47, na pia yale mapato ambayo wanapewa yaweze pia kuangaziwa. Namshukuru pia Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kuweza kutujengea daraja ambalo liko katika eneo bunge langu na likishikana na eneo bunge la Mvita. Tunajua kwa sababu ya mambo ya corona watu wa Likoni walikuwa na changamoto kubwa sana katika kujikinga na janga hili. Hivyo basi daraja hili litaweza kutusaidia tukose kupata ule msongamano na tuweze kusafiri na kuendelea katika mashughuli yetu. Pia vile vile Mheshimiwa Rais amezungumzia ile skimu ya mambo ya bodaboda, na skimu ya mambo ya bodaboda ni njia moja ambayo itaweza kujenga ajira zaidi kwa vijana wetu kule nyanjani. Basi skimu kama hino iweze kusambazwa kule mashinani katika maeneo bunge yetu na katika kaunti zetu, itaweza kujenga ajira. Mheshimiwa Rais amezungumzia ya kwamba vijana watoke kuwa ni wapata mishahara na waweze kuwa wamiliki wa fedha, na kuwa wamiliki wa fedha lazima wajengwe uwezo katika kupata zabuni kama zile zabuni za madeski. Pia waweze kupewa zabuni za kuweza kufanya kazi ya kuleta vifaa hivi vya kupigana na janga la corona. Wapate zabuni pia ya kuweza kujenga mpango wa kutengeza nyumba za kisasa kule katika slums ambako tunataka kuweka Wakenya katika hali ambayo ni nzuri. Mheshimiwa Rais pia amezungumzia mambo ya mkusanyiko ya dijiti, yani ile digitization ya mambo ya mashamba ama mambo ya ardhi. Nikiwa mwanakamati katika kamati ya ardhi, tumeweza kutenga pesa, na sasa hivi kuna kaunti ambayo tayari wameanza kutumia hali kama hiyo. Kwa hivyo ninamunga sana Mheshimiwa Rais kwa jambo kama hiyo, mambo ya training ya vijana, mambo ya shule, kuongeza classroom, kuongeza yale madawati, kuongeza vifaa, kuongeza walimu, ili ule mpito wa watoto kusoma kutoka shule ya msingi mpaka shule ya upili iweze kupatikana, ndiposa watoto wetu waweze kuwa na elimu. Naona kwamba Mheshimiwa Rais alivyozungumzia kufikia Januari mwaka ujao watoto wanaporudi shule, mikakati iwekwe, wazazi wasihangaishwe sana kwa mambo ya karo, kwa sababu janga la corona limezidisha nyuma uchumi wetu. Waweze kupatiwa nafasi, waweze kulipa kwa njia ambayo wataweza kulipa kusomesha watoto wao. Naunga mkono sana pia Mheshimiwa Rais mambo yale ambayo wamefanya, kama kutengeza magari hapa Kenya ambayo yamepelekwa katika kusaidia mambo ya ishu ya ardhi na yamekuwa assemble hapa, vijana walipata ajira na mambo mengi, tuweze kutengeza viwanda katika taifa letu la Kenya kama sampuli kama hiyo iliyofanyika, ili watoto wetu waweze kupata ajira. Naunga
Member for Kitui South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I hereby support this speech by the President in the year 2020. Madam Speaker, I choose not to go on the political side. I choose to focus on the development that the President has done. Madam Speaker, I would like to start on the matter that concerns the committee, the parliamentary committee, the departmental committee on lands. Madam Speaker, in the last few years, in the last 8 years, the President mentioned that his administration has been able to produce 5.4 million title deeds. Madam Speaker, this is almost double of the number of title deeds that have been done since independence. And this is something that we should be very proud of as a country. These title deeds are going to spur development in our counties. The titling process is ongoing in most of our counties, in areas that it has never been done before. In Kwale, Samburu, Kilifi, Ukambani, Garissa, Meru, all parts of this country are being titled. And I would like to appreciate and also thank him for mentioning this as part of what he has been able to do. Madam Speaker, regarding digitization, this is a program that was started many years ago by different ministers within the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning. But when you look at the progress that has been made so far, it is great to note that our title deeds are being digitized. They are going to be stored in a safer way. It will be easier to do searches, and it will be even more authentic for people who would like to invest in this country to be able to check online and be able to identify pieces of land that they may be interested in. In this, I would like to call upon our lawyers and also the Law Society of Kenya to appreciate this kind of project, not to look at it as a way of stopping them from doing what they do every day, carrying different kinds of documents within corridors, to appreciate that they can also find a niche in a digitized economy where our title deeds are stored in soft copies so that they do not fight this project, because it is one of the projects that is being fought. Madam Speaker, the private land, digitization for the private land is being done by the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning. For public land is being done in collaboration between the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning and the National Land Commission. Madam Speaker, with regard to assisting the production of title deeds, surveying, and all that goes with production and digitization of title deeds, this government has been able to build registries. It has been able to purchase vehicles that have been taken to different counties. It has also encouraged our workers in this ministry by giving them promotion, some who had not been promoted for the last 15 years. So I would like to laud the government for this. Madam Speaker, I would like to also reflect on what the President said about the work of this House. He appreciates that we do legislation and he appreciates what we do. Vetting of officers in this House, oversight. He did not complain about harassment of officers, but he thanked this House for the oversight that we are offering to his administration. Also putting us into task, especially the House was put on the task on the issue of the sectoral properties bill that is ongoing, that we promise to deliver soonest possible, because I am informed that it has come back from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I would like also to reflect on the love for this country that the President has. Madam Speaker, the President compared himself with Moses. But those of you who have seen tarmac roads in your constituencies and your counties may not be able to relate to this the way we, who did not have a single kilometer of tarmac road, relate to this matter. Madam Speaker, the President gave his own experience in this House as an opposition leader, sitting on the side of the opposition, as a minister, as a president in hard times when the country was burning out there, as a president in better times, that is during the handshake where there is some peace. And he said that he feels like the Moses of this country. And Madam Speaker, I would like to say yes, the people of my constituents and the people of Kitui County relate with this in that our president has shown courage on where he would like to take this country. He has shown us his relationship with God. He has faced challenges in very difficult times. He has offered solutions, and he's not going to give up. And Madam Speaker, I would like to say that this is a very good analogy that we can relate with. Madam Speaker, I would like to relate it with connectivity. For once, I have a road, 147 kilometers. And Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to say the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, has saved us, our people, from being kept on the road, waiting to be buried.
Honorable Kitty Chonga.
Asante mstahiki Speaker. Nataka kuchukua nafasi hii pia mimi kupongeza hotuba ile ya Mheshimiwa Rais, kwa sababu kuna masuala mengi sana ambayo kwamba yameleta utata katika utendaji kazi na ni kama yamegusiwa pale. La kwanza ambalo kwamba ningetaka kufurahikia na kusherehekea ambalo halikutajwa kwa hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais mwaka jana ni kuhusu zile dhulma ambazo kwamba ziko za kihistoria kuhusu masuala ya ardhi, kwa kimombo historical land injustices. Mwaka jana swala hilo halikuzungumzwa. Mimi nikiwa kiongozi kutoka sehemu ya Kilifi South, niko na mengi ambayo kwamba hayanipi usingizi, haswa nikitafakari swala hili la dhulma ya mashamba. Madam Speaker, hata nikisimama hapa tayari niko na petition yangu ambayo nishaileta hapa ndani ya bunge kuhusu vile shamba kubwa lile la Vipingo lenye lilikuwa limepewa mzungu wakati wa ukoloni aweze kufanya ukuuzi wa makonge, lakini kufika hivi sasa takriban nusu yake limechukuliwa na mabwenyenye bila wenyeji kupatiwa fidia yoyote. Hilo lisitoshe, Madam Speaker, tuko mna masuala ya wale wenye mashamba wenye hawajulikani. Watu nasikia wengine wako Warabuni, hawako wengine hapa ndani ya Kenya hii, lakini mashamba makubwa yameshamilikiwa na wale. Na mabwanyenye wengi wameshakuwa muda kwa muda wanapata nafasi kuu ya wakishajua mashamba kama yale wanakuja kutengeneza hati miliki kwa Wizara ya Mashamba. Unapata wanarudi pale mashamba yale, wale ambao wamekuwa kiishi ndani ya mashamba yale wanaambiwa leo wakatafute makazi mapya. Unapata pia tuko na kesi zenye ambazo kwamba watu zaidi ya miaka 100 wamezaana, wamezikana pale. Unapata watu wamefanya ukuuzi wa mimea tofauti, nafaka ambazo kwamba ndizo zinawakimu kimaisha, kwa sababu nafaka zile zikishapelekwa sokoni ndio nao wanapata chochote cha kuwasaidia. Lakini unapata ghafla bin vu, asubuhi moja unapata tayari mtu amekuja anasema lazima mvunje na muhame. Visa kama hivi ndani ya Kilifi South vimejaa, si Shariani, si Mtepeni Ward, si Vipingo, si Shimolatewa, yani kila uchao visa hivi vimejaa. Hivyo basi ninaunga mkono kikamilifu hotuba hii, nikitumaini tu ya kwamba yale yaliyozungumzwa na rais yatapata mwelekeo mwafaka kwenye kwamba matatizo haya ambayo yanatukumba ya mashamba yapata suluhu la kudumu. Ninasema hivyo kwa sababu niko na wasiwasi na niko na tashwishi. Mstahiki Speaker, wewe na mimi unakumbuka ya kwamba kuna tume nyingi sana ambazo ziliundwa kuchunguza kuhusu masuala ya dhuluma ya mashamba, yakiwemo ya juzi ile tume ya Ndungu, na mambo kama haya ninajua yako katika ripoti ile ya tume ya Ndungu, lakini kufika sasa imekuwa ni ndoto tu, manake haijabainika wazi ni lini ukweli ambao uko ndani ya ripoti ile utaweza kuletwa nje, watu waweze kujua ni nini ambacho kwamba kinafanyika na mwelekeo ni gani. Hivyo basi isiwe tu kwamba lilitajwa lile swala. Tunaomba kwa hisani ikiwezekana pia tuweze kuhakikisha tunaona mambo yakifanyika. Kabla ya muda wangu hujaisha, Speaker, niko na swala lingine ambalo kwamba nataka kuligusia kwa ujuu sana. Ni kuhusu bima ya kitaifa. Tunajua ya kwamba tuko na bima ya kitaifa, lakini watu wengi hawana uwezo, hususan haswa wazee. Ningeomba wazee wako rika la miaka 70 kuendelea wapewe huduma hii kwa bure katika hospitali yoyote. Sasa hii tuko na janga la corona, wengi wanaoathirika ni hawa. Tunaomba Mstahiki Spika, hili pia ni swala ambalo liangaliwe kwa kina, wazee wetu waweze kuchungwa. Nikimaliza ni swala la ufisadi. Kenya ni masikini kwa sababu ufisadi. Kila uchao utapata kesi za ufisadi. Nafikiria imefika wakati, Madam Speaker, hizi sheria za bunge ziweze kuundwa upya ili mradi iweze kuhakikisha kwamba watu hawatajihusisha na visa vya ufisadi. Tunasema vijana hawana kazi, viwanda haviwezi fufuliwa, lakini kila uchao unasikia mabilioni ya pesa yamepotea.
Honorable Kipyegon, Ngeno.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this chance to make my contribution on this presidential speech. Madam Speaker, first I would want to say that I didn't get a chance to be in the House at that particular moment because of a few issues here and there, Madam Speaker, but I followed the speech comprehensively, and I noted several things, Madam Speaker, which I would wish to say. Madam Speaker, first I would want to say that the speech itself fell short of a president who we consider as a great man who has led this country through thick and thin, and especially at a time, Madam Speaker, when several issues needed to be addressed, issues that affect the people of this country. Madam Speaker, we know the world over, the speech which are normally given by the president, especially the State of the Nation, are usually opportunities or avenues where the president addresses the matters that matter most to the ordinary people and to the country, especially on matters to do with security, the matters to do with serious matters that affect the country. Madam Speaker, I therefore have my reservations on these particular issues, Madam Speaker. Remember, Madam Speaker, the president addressed the nation when we are in the middle of a pandemic that has ravaged the country and the world over. Madam Speaker, most of the presidents the world over address this matter very seriously. They put all the efforts, they put all the energies behind dealing with this particular pandemic, Madam Speaker. But when you look at the speech of the president, it was like the matter of corona came at the tail end, or it was an afterthought. Madam Speaker, remember, we've seen several people die. Forget even about the members of parliament who have died in the course of their duties. But let's talk about those Kenyans who die outside there. People who nobody even report when they die. Madam Speaker, forget even about the doctors who their fellow colleagues normally report on how they die. There's so many other people who die in the villages. Madam Speaker, and the reason they die is not because the disease is so dangerous. It is because we cannot handle the disease. It is because we have refused in totality to handle this particular pandemic, Madam Speaker. I do not believe that a country that has developed for over 50 years could even fail to offer beds where some of the people who are sick can be treated. Madam Speaker, we've devolved billions of money to the counties. But simply because we have corrupted almost everything in this country, Madam Speaker, nobody would even imagine handling these matters until we cry to the national government. Madam Speaker, when you look at how nurses are dying, when you look at how doctors are dying, when you look at how these people are even refusing to treat us because they cannot expose themselves, they do not want to expose themselves. And it is because we do not even have simple things, PPEs, which these doctors can use. Madam Speaker, these are very cheap things. Those are issues even which were brought, those are equipments and materials which were brought even by Chinese. They gave us free of charge. But because we are reckless, we are useless, we are stupid, we are corrupt, we just sold them off, thinking this corona will disappear like it has disappeared in Tanzania. Madam Speaker, This corona is killing people in this country, but nobody wants to think about it, want to talk about it. So I would want to say, Madam Speaker, even the question of schools, our schools have been closed for the last 1 year. Madam Speaker, we are told we can open bars and still close schools. And Madam Speaker, these people we are opening bars for, or clubs, are parents who go back to those children. So what is the use of opening a bar or a club? People go and rev the whole night, they drink, they kiss one another, they play around, and then go back to those children. And then we close schools. That is stupidity of the highest order, Madam Speaker. So I think it is high time we reason. The economy of this country has been ravaged. The cohesiveness in this country has also been affected. People are talking of BBI. BBI, Madam Speaker, is not a big deal. As it is us. If you want to have a cohesive country, it is us. It is not the Constitution. It is not the law. We have enough laws that can make this country move in the right direction. It is us. It has a mentality, Madam Speaker. It is only us who can decide to have a united country.
Honorable Nyenze.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute towards the President's speech. On the one side, let me say that it was a very good speech, and I say it was good because it, according to me, I thought he gave hope to the nation. He gave hope to Kenyans, especially during this time when we are going through this pandemic. And I say so because he also, he actually started by reminding us about our solemn pledge to God and to one another through the national anthem, where he actually reminded us about our national anthem, which says that, "O God of all creation, bless this our land and nation. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty, and plenty be found within our borders." I thought by starting with these words of hope through our national anthem, it inspires us as Kenyans to serve faithfully so that we can have plentiful within our borders. It actually reminds us to also be thankful for what we have, and to also embrace one another in peace and liberty. As he addressed the nation on that day, according to Article 132 of the Constitution, I thought he also gave hope to the youth, especially the border riders, whereby he said that before last week, he had actually said that they are going to have a school for driving licenses for these border riders. And this is to empower the border riders so that they can be owners of capital, and by saving through the schemes that they will even own their own petrol stations, and also own border assembly factories and other investments that will transform their lives. That was a good speech, but I would say that with the border riders and also youth in general, they have to be assisted to actually come up with such initiatives, because what they do, what our youth do, and also the border riders, and most of the Kenyans, even the women who sell boga and other earthlings, actually they need to be helped. Why do I say so? This is because they actually save today, and it's like what you have, you just eat it the same day. It's from hand to mouth. It's from hand to mouth, so it becomes very difficult to save. So I would urge the government to also open a kit where if we are to actually actualize this dream of these border riders being owners of the capital, they need to have a kit started for them so that they can save into just the little they get into that kit, because as I've said, they actually work from hand to mouth. The other thing which the president addressed was on them being for, especially on housing, whereby Retirement Benefits Authority has amended their act to allow pension schemes to allow members use part of their pension savings for acquiring houses. And this is a very good initiative because most of the people, most of us Kenyans, dream of owning a home. And it's not easy to own a home. But through the pension schemes, since the act has already been amended, people can own their own homes, they can own houses. But my caution is that the market should also
Honorable Jaldesa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to contribute to this debate. Madam Speaker, as I rise to add my voice, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the President for the many issues he captured. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about COVID-19 pandemic, especially on administrative intervention. And I would really recommend him for that because due to the timely lockdown, in the first onset of corona, we were able to sort of reduce the spread. Madam Speaker, however, I expected much more in terms of the long-term measures, because this is a disease that is likely to be with us for a long time. I did not really quite follow on what the President really wanted Kenyans to do. Secondly, Madam Speaker, on matters education, I would like to commend the government, especially on where the President said they were able to provide people textbook ratio of 1:1, especially on grade 1 to grade 3. That will go a long way in addressing some of the challenges in our public school. However, Madam Speaker, I just want to be fair by saying those. And especially the other positive issue that I want to talk about is where the President was able to talk about the ease of doing business, and especially the World Bank report that placed Kenya position number 56 out of 189. That is very commendable, Madam Speaker. However, Madam Speaker, I expected the President to address quite a lot, especially at this time where we are going through a very difficult time. Madam Speaker, I expected the President's speech to talk specifically on austerity measures to address the depressed economy. Madam Speaker, even as this House, you members can really support me in this, that we are suffering. Our staff have not been paid, Madam Speaker. Those of us who come from interior of this country, far-fetched areas, have not even been able to service our vehicles because we cannot even get the small entitlement that we get. Madam Speaker, the country is bleeding. I was in my constituency over the weekend, Madam Speaker. I visited a family that had not cooked for 4 days. And therefore, we expected the President to tell us exactly what will happen to this country. Madam Speaker, I expected the President to talk about the ballooning debt ceiling. Madam Speaker, if we don't address that, therefore, it means we are not serious as a nation. I know the Chinese will be knocking our doors for their loans. Madam Speaker, I am worried. We might lose the port of Mombasa. Madam Speaker, we might lose our airports. Madam Speaker, I expected the President to talk about corruption. The issue of corruption seems to be a political statement which has now gone under. I wish I had more time, Madam Speaker. However, I will go to the issue that is very emotive to my heart, the issue of BBI. Madam Speaker, the only good thing about BBI is the preamble. Words which talk about equity, equality, national ethos, shared prosperity. Madam Speaker, I cannot pick one incident to confirm to those preambles. Madam Speaker, when you talk about the issues of resource allocation, 18 counties out of 47 is going to lose if this BBI will go through, God forbid. Madam Speaker, the issue of representation. Women of this country have been reduced to flower girls once again. We are being told women will be moved out of this house, the house that's talking.
I'll give you a minute, Honorable Jaldesa.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is so sad when the women of this country are once again reduced to flower girls. Madam Speaker, we as women have fought so hard to reach where we are, to be removed from the National Assembly and to be taken to a ballooned Senate does not solve the issue of two-thirds.
Honorable Muchangi, what
Madam Speaker, we want to compete with men.
Let's just listen to Honorable Muchangi. What is out of order?
Madam Speaker, why have you continued to allow members to speak without putting on their masks?
Yes, that is a valid one, Honorable Jaldesa. Although it muffles your voice, you can make sure the microphone is well positioned, but please keep your masks on throughout.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Conclude,
Sorry.
Honorable Jaldesa.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I had a very thick mask and it's really interfering with my audio. Madam Speaker, therefore, I'm saying we cannot support a BBI that will take away the women's gain. Madam Speaker, the BBI should be about uniting this country. I heard one member saying, for this country to be united, we must stop the issue of hustler nation. Then we cannot have the reggae discourse in BBI. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I wish the
Yes, Honorable Lakinyi, what is out of order? Obara?
When COVID